The first is that you have to be trustworthy. You know, there's an old idiom. Basically, it takes you a lifetime to establish trust and about 14 minutes to blow it. You have to be consistently trustworthy. Now, this does not mean you can never make a mistake, because human beings make mistakes. However, even in a mistake, even a moment where you mess something up, it's actually an opportunity to prove you are trustworthy.
Hey there, dental economist. If you're a dentist owner or a leader within a dental business thinking about growing production, case acceptance, patient and staff satisfaction, positive outcomes, and everything else that comes with running a dental business, then you're a dental economist, and you've come to the right place. Welcome to the Dental Economist Show. We're meeting at the intersection of profit and purpose as I sit down with dental leaders who share their stories about dentistry, business, and growth. Welcome back to the Dental Economist Show with me, Mike Huffaker. Today, I'm delighted to welcome Neal Foard. Actually, I'm more than delighted. I'm very excited to welcome Neal to the show. Neal is a seasoned advertising executive, marketing professional, over 30 years of experience shaping narratives for global brands such as Budweiser, Lexus, and Sony. Neal is the principal at StoryFire, where he focuses on empowering leaders to utilize storytelling as a powerful tool to engage and motivate teams effectively. Neal's marketing philosophy transcends mere storytelling. It involves building genuine relationships and fostering an environment of generosity. He is an absolute must-follow on LinkedIn, where his inspirational content focuses on uplifting narratives about everyday people, showcasing his commitment to positive storytelling. Neal, it is really great to have you today. How are you?
Thank you, Mike. I'm well, enjoying some beautiful fall weather. And I'm quite tickled to be here. You and I met when you had a get-together down there in Orange County, and it was great. You have a terrific crew that came out. It was very lively and playful, I'm happy to say.
Yeah, it actually, you ended up being witness to maybe one of the most unintentional, uncomfortable corporate lunch entertainment performances.
He was great. He was fantastic.
There any type of corporate event had seen.
I enjoyed it, just so you know, and I wasn't alone.
You were not alone. It's funny how that actually came to be. We were organizing the event, and Mehmet and I were talking about, who we wanted to have come speak, and discussing having you come speak. And Mehmet goes, "Hey, Mike, what do you think about this guy for some lunchtime entertainment?" He sends me this clip from Master Ken, and I watch it, and I'm amused. And I said, "You know what? I feel like there could be greater than zero chance that somebody finds some offense in his approach here." So I go back to Mehmet and I say, "You know what? Would you mind?" There's a couple women on our team who are of very sound mind and strong judgment, who also have a high level of EQ, running this by them and getting their feedback. And as long as they think like this is okay, let's go ahead and do this. So a week later, Mehmet pings me again and goes like, "Hey, so what are we doing? We doing Master Ken?" I'm like, "All right, well, let's do it." So sure enough, he walks in and he first time I meet him, he's got his taped on mustache. The guy doesn't break character the whole time. Walks out there into the middle of all the tables, asks anybody if they've trained martial arts. The first guy that responds is this older gentleman. And he goes, "Yes, in fact, I have." And he goes, "Well, what have you trained?" He said, "Karate." And he goes, "Nobody believes you." I go, "Here we go." So I asked Mehmet afterwards, I go, "Are you sure? Like they thought that was a good idea?" And he goes, "Oh, you know what? I never showed it to him."
Oh, Mehmet. Although I was going to say seconds ago, smart play, just run it by a couple of people, see what they think. And you don't do it so that you can slough blame off on them if things go sideways. But I do have to say that Master Ken is a delightful, very funny, silly thing. And if you're taking offense at that, that's on you. That's not on Master Ken. He's a good dude who just wants people to laugh. And I think easily 97% of that audience thought that was a big hit. My compliments for having thought of it in the first place. Because corporate events typically are, they can be pretty dry, and you have to really watch out for people standing in front of a room and putting bullet points up on a screen and then reading them to us. I mean, nobody wants to go to an event like that. The beauty of having somebody like Master Ken, having the impulse to hire somebody like Master Ken, is we're all together. We're human beings. Let's have a little fun as long as we're face to face. There's plenty of time for us to get around to people like Neal helping us, upskill, or something tangible. I thought it was delightful. I thought it was a terrific thing to have at lunch. And my compliments to you and Mehmet, because it set a tone that I think kind of loosened people up, lets them be themselves.
Absolutely. No. And if it wasn't for Master Ken, your session would have been the most discussed session that we had during the event. But you came in a close second, for sure.
Okay, good.
And it was a great time. And you know what? It was funny. You talk about bullet points on the slide, and just kind of one more aside and we can jump into it. But the presenter after you is watching you give this incredibly eloquent, well-reasoned presentation that's evoking all of this emotion. And he's looking at his slide deck of like 50 slides and going, I've got a lot of bullet points with words on it. So he starts taking slides out and he puts in slides with him and pictures of his dog. And so he gets up after you and he goes, this is a new deck. I've modified it on the fly. And it was a good time.
Adapt and survive.
Adapt and survive is right. 100%. So, hey, we can go a lot of different directions here. And you've got a really interesting background. But I just want to start maybe jumping right into the meat of some things. And I'd be really curious to get your perspective as it relates to B2B versus B2C marketing. And what I mean is, we all can think of these campaigns that were B2C that are, fun and emotional and memorable. And when we get to the B2B side of things, which is where we as a software company live and some of our clients as well, it doesn't seem like there's the capability to be as joyous or as inspirational. Is that true, false? And what are kind of the things to think about in that context?
Okay. First of all, that is a fabulous subject to discuss, because what that opens the door to is talking about an absolutely core principle of communication in business. And that is, on the other side of every transaction is another human being. And you must never think of a business B2B customer as anything other than a human being. Now, let's just take one step back and say, look, when somebody is in a B2B position where they're going to be acquiring something like software from you, when they have to be making a very rational, very defensible position about why they decided to go with you, Mike, you have to give them the thing that they can say that's going to justify and rationalize that decision. But remember always, there is still a human being on the other side of that. There is a rule that I personally follow. I only picked it up 20 years into the business, but I learned it, the hard way. Life gets so much easier when people like you. And if they feel like they know you, then along comes with it a sort of sense of trust. Like, this doesn't seem like the kind of person who would cheat me. Or if he's going to make a promise, I'll bet you he keeps it, or she. Okay, so let's go back to your question. The word you used was such an apt choice of word. When you're doing B2B, you can't be as joyous. Okay, I say, nope, not true. Again, there's a human being on the other side of the transaction. What they really want from you is the sense that that's the kind of person I want to do business with. I think that would be fun to do business with Mike Huffaker, because the way that he presents himself is, hey, come on, we're all in this together. It's a human experience. I know what you want. I know what will help you. Or alternatively, instead of I know what will help you, it's like, I can't wait to help you. I think I've got something that's going to be interesting to you. I think it's going to be affordable. I think it's going to do great things for you. Let me tell you about this. And the personality that comes out is very reassuring. If you read the book, The Right Stuff, Tom Wolfe, and he talks about how there was a time there when every pilot on every airline had a kind of a down-home accent, and they were all imitating Chuck Yeager because they wanted to be reassuring that I may be flying a Boeing 707 right now, but I used to fly F-86s over Korea. So there ain't nothing I ain't seen, And so this personality that emerges is reassuring. There's a competent, smart, engaged person on the other side of this that isn't an automaton, that doesn't follow rules blindly. You mentioned a minute ago something I thought was delightful, which is that the guy that got up after me at the thing said, you know what, I'm going to pivot because I can't very well stand up after Neal, where he's just told everybody that only idiots put a bunch of bullet points up on the screen and read them. So he goes, well, I better not do that then, right? The kind of person who can swing with it, right, and pivot like that, that's a highly competent, unafraid person. That's somebody who adapts to a change in the weather. And my compliments to him. When you are in business, the number one thing that is valuable, the number one thing of value is trust. And part of that is, it's more like you have a high skill level. And they have to feel like you have a high skill level. However, even if you have a high skill level, like you're a lawyer and you have a very high, you've got a couple of degrees, but there's something ain't right. I get the feeling you're like a narcissist and this is kind of all about you, isn't it? It's not about me. It's not about helping me. It's about you getting another client and making partner. I don't want to be part of your agenda. Well, B2B advertising is a wonderful place for you to establish a kind of brand about the human being you are, the help you want to be, the service you provide at a very high level, and the reasonable charge that you do for your service. More than anything, what a B2B supplier is after is a relationship. I don't want this to end after one transaction. This is something where you and I will be in business for years because I provide you with something that's highly profitable and we have a good, solid foundation of trust under this. Okay, the marketing that you do for that has to come from a place of humanity, understanding, empathy, and a level of enthusiasm. So when you say maybe that we aren't as joyous, well, you ought to be. You ought to be really tickled to bring your product to somebody because you're going to be solving a problem. And when you solve that problem, all kinds of opportunities open up. It's fun. It should put a smile on your face. It's like, hey, if we can do this for you, think about what you'll really be spending your time on because it's not going to be this. We'll take care of that. Isn't that great? Yeah, actually, that is great.
I love it. You did say something I wanted to ask you about, though. You mentioned trust. And I don't think you can just declare that you are trustworthy. What are the methods which elicit and help people to understand that you are worthy of their trust in a marketing or storytelling sense?
Yes, so there's a few facets to that gem. The first is that you have to be trustworthy. There's an old idiom. Basically, it takes you a lifetime to establish trust and about 14 minutes to blow it. You have to be consistently trustworthy. Now, this does not mean you can never make a mistake because human beings make mistakes. However, even in a mistake, even a moment where you mess something up, it's actually an opportunity to prove you are trustworthy. For example, when Toyota had its Camry recall some years ago, I think it would have been about 2009 or so, it was a global problem. And Toyota, the Camry was its best-selling vehicle at the time, and they had this quote unquote unintended acceleration problem. Now, I was really in close on this. I saw it practically at ground zero. And I knew that the unintended acceleration thing was kind of BS. It turned out later they were vindicated. Nevertheless, you can't very well tell the public, oh, the problem is driver error, because they're not going to believe you. And if Toyota goes on record as saying it's your problem, not mine, that is not going to engender trust and a relationship. It's not going to sell you your next car. So they understood what the calculus of this was, which is we have to respond to this by over-responding, by making it good with everybody. So, for example, what they did was they said, all right, our bad, we're going to fix this problem. It's not going to cost you a penny when you go to the dealer. Obviously, it's all on us. We'll fix it. What's more, we're going to be Johnny on the spot. We're going to do it right away. We're going to take care of the dealers, so you're not going to get a fight from the dealers. So what happened they handled it so well that when they emerged from the other side, people's satisfaction level with Toyota as a brand and with the Camry was higher than if they'd never had a recall at all. Because how great is it if you know that when things go wrong with a Toyota, they're going to take care of it. You and I both know no car is perfect. You know something's going to happen. But how cool is it to know that they're going to take care of it? So trustworthiness isn't a matter of you saying you can trust me. What it is you have to go through the world with every action and every word being trustworthy. That's the first facet. The second facet is you have to communicate that you are very much interested in the success of the person on whose behalf you are working. You're interested. You ask a lot of questions. You want to find out, let's say, for example, Mike, that in the sales pitch for the software, you are asking a lot of questions and you're listening to the answers. And you're able to go back to things that they asked and recite them again to signal that you've heard them. I heard you, and I haven't forgotten. And then what's more, there's a weapon that you can use, which is very powerful, which is to be absolutely sure you heard somebody correctly. So it's like, wait, Mike, a minute ago you were asking about this. Let me spit it back to you, telling me if I'm getting it right. You're suggesting that this needs to have a lower price point because of such and such and such. Am I hearing you right? Yes, I'm hearing you right. Or no, that's not quite what I want. A good listener is generally more trustworthy because it indicates a level of attention and care, and they are motivated by doing what you want to be done rather than just doing something. Have you ever seen pundits on talk shows? They kind of never answer the question asked. They only answer the question they wish had been asked. Well, we're not all country bumpkins. And as soon as I hear somebody answering a question that wasn't asked, I go, A, I will never believe you again, since you're just grinding an axe. And B, you're exhausting. I can't listen to another word. You're just running out the clock. And we grow accustomed to this kind of like, oh, okay, you're not answering the question I actually asked. When somebody is answering the question asked, when they are paying attention and they go right there, it's fantastic. You go, okay, I'm with you so far. We were in a pitch for a very, very large piece of business. It was the Florida hospital installation at the Daytona International Speedway. It was a multi-million-dollar installation. We were pitching this business. We showed all these great creative ideas, which we just slaved over. Thousands of hours of putting together these creative installation ideas and then putting together the presentation to show it off to these incredibly competent people at Florida Hospital. We get to the end of this show, and the president of this particular office says, I very much love the ideas you've shown, but I have to say, if you'll forgive me, I'm a little skeptical about how much of this you can actually deliver by the deadline, because it's the show must go on when this thing opens. So of what you've shown me, how much of it can actively be achieved by race day? And the guy running our pitch turns to the chief engineer, the chief guy who's responsible for making sure it gets built, and he goes, Dave? And Dave literally leans up to a microphone and goes, 100%, and then just sits back. That was the totality of his answer. I felt sure we won the business in that answer, because what happened was he wasn't glossing it. He wasn't dodging it. There was no disclaimer. This is what the answer actually said. I know it was only 2 words or 2.5, but here's what it actually said. I have reviewed every single piece of this creative and given it my imprimatur. I wouldn't put anything in front of you that wouldn't be ready by game day. It is my responsibility to make sure I know what I'm doing. I've got this. If anything goes wrong, I'm the throat to choke. He communicated all of that with that answer. Why? Because there was no disclaimer. There was a rapid and complete answer in 2.5 words. Isn't that the kind of guy you want to work with? Isn't that the kind of guy that you go to the job site and you go, hey, Dave, no, shipment was late, but don't worry, we'll get it. Don't worry. I got it. I know all about it. I'm aware of the problem on I-80. I got it.
Most people these days add caveats afterwards. 100%, unless this happens or this happens. Yes.
Yeah, I got you. But you communicate a lot with a direct response. And he heard what the guy needed to hear. It's like, I take responsibility for this answer, is what he was also saying. Not to go off too far on that, but this thing, trust, I want to bang away at it again, because it's very difficult to trust systems. Let me give you an example. If I happen to be on TikTok, if you want to get a response from TikTok, there is no way on God's earth you're going to get a human being. There is not a chance you're going to talk to a real human being. You're going to go into the system, this incredibly opaque black box, and you are not going to get a satisfactory answer to anything. That's the way it goes. When you can speak to a human being, when you feel like you know somebody at the other end of this line, that goes a long way at demonstrating that you can be trusted, because you're there to answer the phone. I mean, I used to be a diamond flyer on Delta. Oh my God, that was glorious. When I had enough miles to be like at the top level of their thing. And when you would have a problem of any kind, you could call their toll-free number and they wouldn't say hello or they wouldn't say Delta Diamond Line. They would go, "Hi, Neal, what can I do for you?" Because their system had you in it. They had your whole record. They knew what your points were. They knew everything about you. So let's say my flight got canceled or I got bumped or some other disaster happened when I was going from Atlanta to Chattanooga. On the Diamond Line, they go, "Hi, Neal, I'm on it. I see what's happening. Don't worry, we'll get you there. Let me see what I can work out." I mean, oh my God, what a delightful experience to have somebody on the other end of the line who understands.
It's nice to be seen. That's for sure. Let me pivot a little. I'd be curious to get your perspective on personal branding within a business. And I think when I think of most of the companies that I purchased from, with some exceptions, with big tech now, you of course know like Tim Cook is the CEO of Apple. And like, so some of these, there are brands now at the executive level for some of the bigger companies that are well known that influence what you do. Elon Musk is another example. For better or worse, he has become kind of a firebrand and has become that. Now, I don't have any idea who the CEO of Toyota is or who the CEO of General Mills is or of, some of the big food, McDonald's for that matter at this point. So is there a argument to be made that personal brand at the leadership level adds value, or is it something that can subtract? And there actually is an application within our industry as well, with the dental space. We have some larger companies with some very well-known senior executives that kind of have a brand of their own. And how do you separate the two, join the two, or determine whether or not there should be a pursuit of a personal brand in conjunction with the company itself?
A personal brand, when you are the top person that controls a brand's fate and destiny, you have to take the Hippocratic Oath, which is, first, I will do no harm. Therefore, you have to be very sensitive to what it is you're signaling out into the world. It doesn't mean you have to have a very big footprint, but you have to have taken the Hippocratic Oath. Now, let's think about it from the middle and lower echelons and so on. Here's the fact. You are searchable. In 2024, 2025, people can find you. It's not going to take them more than 35 seconds to find you on LinkedIn or Instagram or Facebook or TikTok or YouTube or any of a number of other ways. They're going to find you. They're going to Google search you and they're going to say, so this is what they're about. And you are responsible for what they see. Now, you can either be active and curate it and make sure it's what you're happy with, or you can just let the wind blow where it blows, and that might or might not be a good idea. So what becomes really important in your personal brand is to do two things. Decide what it is, like really, really reflect on what are the values you want to put into the world? What do you want people to find when they search for you? And this is important. By finding me, by exploring me, have I improved their day? Because if you haven't, you're not doing it right. Now, here's what I mean by improving your day. Let's say I look for Mike Huffaker and I find you on LinkedIn. What kind of posts are you putting up? Are they useful or are they self-interested? I'll give you an example of how somebody thinks they're doing the right thing, but actually they're not improving my day. Let's say that you've won an award of some kind. It's useful for me to know that your business has won an award because that's social proof that, apparently you're doing something right. But what people often do is they say, so humbled to have won Flange Maker of the Year award. And it's got you with holding a plaque and shaking somebody's hand or something. Or more commonly, it's just a picture of you in the Bahamas, whatever. And it's the humble brag. Humble bragging demonstrates a complete tone deafness. It does more damage than you think it does, because it says, I have narcissistic tendencies. It's all about me. And I stood up on a soapbox and announced this to the world, while at the same time thinking you're all a bunch of rubes that can't see through this while I talk about how wonderful I am. All right. Now, here's the opportunity. If you did win Flange Maker of the Year, you have a lot of thank yous to spread around. So it's not about you. What it's about is, we recently won this award. I want to call special attention to Margaret and Janet on our team. here are their pictures. And they're nice, candid pictures of them at work, delivering supplies in North Carolina to the hurricane victims. And what I like about them are these qualities. So forgive me for taking up a little of your time, but they deserve to be acknowledged. Now, here's what that communicates about you. You're like a coach that wants to win because you want the sacrifice and the struggle of your players to pay off. That's your biggest thrill, is winning it for them, is so that they get the experience of all that hard work paying off. It's not because you want to hoist the Lombardi trophy. When you spread that credit around, everybody still knows you're at the epicenter of that. They all still know. But what you did was you said, this is the kind of person I am. I believe in the agency of others. I believe that greatness is a team sport. I believe that there's only one reason to be in business, and that's to improve the lives of others. So you see where I'm heading with that, which is a personal brand is an opportunity for you to spread values. And remember, above all else, your personal brand exists for what? To improve somebody's day when they find you. And so, because what'll happen is if you're successful, if you do improve somebody's day, remember my earlier rule, life gets so much easier when people like you. When you call them up and they hear your voice on the other end of the phone, they're like, oh, Mike, it's great to hear from you. How you doing? I'll tell you how I'm doing. I'm ecstatic because I'm about to make your day. I'm about to improve your life. We have this, you can get 50% off this, or I can give you 20% more of that.
I love the philosophy there. And in fact, one of my favorite sales trainers of all time, who also happens to have made my favorite quote of all time, is Zig Ziglar. And he has a quote that's, you can have anything you want in life if you help enough others get what they want. And I think, when I look at the stories that you tell on LinkedIn, it's very much like this. Like I now have a number of your stories that are favorites of mine. The bartender, the hero next door is one of them that you posted on, I think it was Memorial Day or Veterans Day. And I made both my sons watch that one as well. I was like, you guys got to watch this. This is great. And the story of your friend who's the great listener, and the restaurant of mistaken orders. I don't know. I can keep going on and on. I know a number of them now, but you're never the star of any of them, right? Like it is a story of something that had taken place that you were the observer and the witness, and you now get to highlight kind of the amazingness of the individuals that surrounded you. Is that kind of a centralized component of being a great storyteller as well?
Yes, I believe so. I think you're isolating something that's incredibly significant when it comes to storytelling for business, which is don't make yourself the hero of the story. You can absolutely be at the center of the action, but only as a witness and as somebody who learned something. Let's pretend that you did something really admirable. Even if you did it, tell the story like somebody else did it, and that you saw it and that you admired that. Because there's this quote from George Orwell, which people hear me repeat ad nauseum. I love it. The George Orwell quote is, no autobiography is to be trusted unless it reveals something disgraceful, because any man who gives a good account of himself is most likely lying, since any life, when looked at from the inside, is just a series of defeats. And it's really central that you should never tell a story where you are the hero. And part of the reason goes like this. Here's the psychology of it and why it's significant. If I tell a story and I'm the hero, it's really unlikely you're going to believe me, because you know how it goes. People exaggerate when they talk about themselves. I caught this fish. Yeah, it was this big. But if you're telling a story about somebody else, then the likelihood that it's true is higher. Okay, the second thing is that if I'm talking about how wonderful I am, then the way that you're looking at this story is I'm expecting you to look up at me in admiration and awe. Unlikely. It's more that I'm jealous and cannot wait for you to fall flat on your face. So jealous, skeptical, and hoping for your demise. This is not where you want your personal brand to be. On the alternative, if the story is about somebody wonderful that you saw and you thought, oh, that's great. I would love to tell about this. I'd love to tell this story about my friend Tommy. Then what happens is the audience is sitting next to you. You guys are watching it together. And it's a little bit like this. You go to the edge of the Grand Canyon. You look out at this beautiful, unbelievable sight. What's the first thing you do? You look at somebody else to see if they're seeing it. You want to share the awesomeness. That's what you want to do. If you tell the story and somebody else is the hero, then the audience is standing next to you at the rim of the Grand Canyon going, oh yeah, that's cool. That's good. It's just a psychological phenomenon. You want the audience to be your partner, not your audience. And again, to go to social media, a personal brand needs to be a modest one, and it needs to be a helpful one that they're pleased to see. Starbucks is getting a lot of heat right now for, the drinks are $6 for latte. And on top of that, they've turned the Starbucks outlets into a churn and burn environment where it's like, you are not welcome to stay. They've taken something that used to be a living room and they've turned it into the restroom, with the tile, easy to clean.
I was just talking to somebody about this week.
Okay. Well, so this is the equivalent. If you do content that celebrates others and is about values and seeks to improve somebody else's day, you're very much like that Starbucks living room, like the old-timey version of Starbucks where you're welcome to stay as long as you like and we got good Wi-Fi and you just feel welcome and surrounded by humanity. You're reassured that everything's going to be okay. But when you talk about yourself, it's like, this is a transaction. Please get your coffee and go. You're holding up the line. And why would I want to be part of that?
Is it easier for people to do that? Is that the reason why when you're on LinkedIn, it is just post after post of self-aggrandizement that you just run into of, let me allow myself to congratulate myself? Is it just because that takes less creativity?
Well, there is a certain element of that. People are insecure. God bless them. I get it. I am too. Just this morning, honest to God, Mike, I put up an ad for my StoryFire storytelling and persuasion course. And it was really hard for me to press send because it literally says like a blatant piece of propaganda to try to sell you my course. I was so uncomfortable because 99% of the time I just want to tell you a story to make you smile or maybe have a little tear or just feel reconnected when you're having your morning coffee. Like I always post in the morning. I post at 6 a.m. because it's 9 a.m. in the East. And over your morning coffee, I want to give you something to smile. Why? Because I want to be a good thing in your life. I want to be helpful. And so when I finally do an ad, it's like, well, at least I bought permission to do an ad. Because most of the time, I'm just here for you. And anyway, so why do people mostly do that? Yeah, I don't think they're thinking it through. I think what they're doing is they're revealing their insecurity by talking about how wonderful they are. Or do you follow Gary Vaynerchuk on LinkedIn or out in the world? I find him an astonishing anomaly. All of his material helps you. It's trying to help you. He has given it away. He's throwing out diamonds and gold bars. And what he's demonstrating to me is how incredibly profitable that is to go out in the world with a mission to try to help other people. It's hypnotic. He's really good at it. God dang, that guy's got a knack.
I mean, and the breadth of content and material that he's able to put out, including how to go to yard sales and start flipping things and making more money for yourself. It's like, where does this come from? He's like, I just love it.
He's turning a $15 profit at a yard sale. Meanwhile, he wants to buy the jets, and God love him. I hope he does. But he could actually do that. Holy crap. Gary Vee could wind up owning the Jets. He certainly loves the team, loves the brand. And I mean, he loves it down to the marrow, to the molecules in his marrow. He loves the Jets. And the whole story about his mother, making him a sweater with the Jets name on it. It's like, I will not rest until I own this team because there will be no greater experience in human existence. There will be no greater experience than the feeling Gary Vaynerchuk will have when he tells his mother he bought the team. Can you imagine the sensation going through his body? He will immolate. He will burst into flames when he's able to tell his mother he bought the Jets. And you can be absolutely sure that sweater that she made him is somehow going to be on display at MetLife. God bless that guy. You see how much love I have for this cat? I've never met him in my life. And this is the power of a brand. This is the power of personal branding.
Yep, he resonates with you. You have the emotional connection, even absent the personal meeting at any point in time. And you gotta love like the ambition and like even though you root the whole thing on because he's rooting everybody on, and he just is always those meetings that he has where like somebody runs into him and they seem kind of down and like they're upset about something. He's like, no. You're doing great. Like, you just got to do this and like, look at it this way. Like, how can you root against that?
Absolutely. You nailing it. And then I'll go one further to add on to what you were just saying, which is the advice he gives them is timeless. It's it's righteous. And what for example, what he'll say is, you got to stop caring about what anybody else thinks. You got to be willing to drive that 2004 Scion XB for the next 15 years, because it's not about what's happening out there. It's not about what people think. It's about staying on mission. It's about staying consistent. It's about taking joy in the work and step by step, sticking with it until you get where you're going. And I'm listening to this, I'm going, you are so right, Gary. You got to just stick to the plan, stick with the program. Nothing happens overnight. Keep going to the gym. The gym, you don't come back from a bicep workout on Wednesday and you're not an inch bigger. All right. That ain't how it works. That's not how physics works. That's not how molecules and protons work. You got to keep doing it. And he's preaching that evangel. And I'm so in love with the idea that he's giving people the right advice. And there's another thing he does, which I think is fascinating. He's telling people that are 60 years old, hey, man, you got a lot of gas left in the tank. Don't think you're locked out of this. You're not locked out of this. I'm a really good example of this. I reinvented myself 2.5 years ago. Just absolutely pivoted 100%. And I'm having more fun now than I've ever had in my life, Mike. I mean, who knew?
It's a great message of hope. Let me ask you this. If you are a brand, a business, let's and maybe a dental group or a dental organization where you are in a sea of competition that from the consumer's viewpoint look very similar, like you may know that you offer the best patient care and you provide the best services and that your staff is caring and well-trained and that your clinicians are top-notch, but from the outside, somebody just driving down their street or Googling dentist near me, it becomes very hard to stand out. What are some of the things that you would think about to differentiate yourself in the market?
Okay, so fabulous question. We could go off on that for another 15 minutes. So here we go. The number one thing is remember that even though you're a brand and even though you're trying to sell your services and even though you're trying to differentiate, your principal mission in life is to improve other people's day. So what you want to be able to do is keep up a fairly steady stream of content that is discoverable. Look, it doesn't mean not everybody's going to see your message, but anybody that looks you up, they're comparing you to some other local dental group and they're going to find your content. And what you want your content to be is, hey, here are some ways that you can improve your dental health. Just little things. Or it's like you start a video and you go, is there a benefit to drinking a lot of water before you go to bed? What does that do to your teeth? Or here are the 5 things to watch out for that you don't do. These are bad habits that people often have regarding their dental health. Or, hey, what are the merits of having a crown doing this or doing that? Or let's talk about why a smile is one of your most important assets. Or which it is. And then you can say things like, do you ever have a bad breath problem? Okay, so all of this content, what it adds up to is we're in the dental business. We're all about teeth. And we are alive about teeth. We love helping people out. We are improving people. You see how beautiful these veneers are, or we do the teeth whitening. Oh my God, that's a transformation. Your energy, your enthusiasm, your happiness, the fact that your people are pleased to tell these stories. If you can find somebody in your office that's good on camera, then make them a star. And, because it's better to stand out being who you really are, because the people that show up then are the right kind of people. They're the ones that like what you were. They like who you really are. You can have a lot of happy customers if what they saw online turns out to be the real you. It's always better to be yourself online than this image of perfection, because you don't want people to be disappointed when they meet you. Like, let's say, for example, Mike, that in all of my videos, I have this beautiful, right, I have this beautiful head of hair that turns out to be a toupee. And then people meet me in real life and this is what I look like. It's like, wow, what a letdown. So no, you can't do that. Your job isn't to present yourself as though you're perfect out in the world. It's to demonstrate your enthusiasm for helping people with what you're good at. Okay, so that's the first thing, is that differentiation is A, it's who you really are. That is, you portray yourself as you really are. And B, it's enthusiasm about the things you're good at. And C, it's an opportunity for the people that work in your office to become sort of minor celebrities. They're out there. There's a crazy phenomenon that happens when you've seen somebody online. I mean, like, Mike, let's pretend you and I are having a beer somewhere and Gary Vee walks in. We're going to freak out, man. We're going to be like, holy shit, it's Gary Vee. Oh my God. Right. And it's because we've seen him online and so we feel like we know him. And the brilliance of a dentist or a hygienist that's really good on camera or that enjoys it is when you walk in and see them, you're going to be like over the moon. You'll be like, holy mackerel. It's Dr. Dan. What the hell? He really does look like that. Oh my God. He's tall. He's 6'1". Oh my God. I didn't realize he was that tall. He's better looking in person. And have you ever had the occasion, Mike, of walking down the street and then you just cross paths with a celebrity, like somebody from TV? Who did you see, like, coming the other way?
I saw Guy Fieri. And the funny thing was I thought for a second, I was like, is that actually Guy Fieri? And I go, who am I kidding? Of course it's Guy Fieri. Who else's hair is like that with like a ring on every single finger of like with chains around his neck? So yeah, but it was a great moment.
It's an interesting phenomenon to actually encounter these people in the wild. So I was in Manhattan, and we had an office on the border between Soho and the West Village. So it was a really ritzy, super boss place. They used to shoot a lot of romantic comedies, and New York was very film friendly. And oh my God, the West Village was just so photogenic for rom-coms. So they were shooting this very cute movie, and the two stars of it, there were among others, were Ryan Reynolds and Rachel Weisz. Now, they were both in their early 30s at the time. I'm walking down the street, and I can see them at some distance. What has happened is that they were filming the movie, and they went to go get coffee at this little coffee shop. So they're coming the opposite way. Now, we're at a distance of about 100 meters. And already at this distance, I can tell these are two of the most attractive people I have ever laid eyes on in my life. I don't yet know that it's Ryan Reynolds and Rachel Weisz. All I know is these people are impossibly attractive. So this is my reaction at 100 yards. Look at this dude. He's going to be like 6'3". Look at that hairdo. And then Rachel was going, man, she is hot as a rivet. Okay. Now we're at 50 meters. Is that Rachel Weisz and Ryan Reynolds? No. Oh my God, it is. Okay. Now I'm trying desperately not to stare. In person, Rachel Weisz is not human. She is so beautiful. She is an uber, somebody hit her with the gorgeous stick. And I couldn't help myself, Mike. I'm literally staring at her because I can't take my eyes off her. And I really didn't want to, but I had to take it in. I had to burn her into my retinas because I was going, good Lord, how is this possible? Okay. You are consumed with this strange cascade of emotions. There were neuropeptides go washing over my brain I had no control over. And the crazy thing is, I wouldn't have had the same reaction if I hadn't already seen her on screen and realized that in person, she's even better looking. In person, it's staggering. In a movie, everybody's good looking. Like they're impossibly good looking. So you put that many good looking people on the screen, you stop being thrilled. But when you encounter them in the wild,
those are the real aliens that live amongst us, Neal. If you weren't aware.
Well put. I'm going to steal that. That's good. But here's the point of my going off on that tangent for a long time. It's this, that when you make a presence for your brand online, you're a dental office and you do consistent content about every week, more if you can, although it's kind of it's a strain, but something useful, something fun, if you can do it once a week, then what happens is, when people see it, when they encounter it because they're searching for a dentist and they encounter your media and they click on a couple of videos, then what happens is when they meet you in person, they are thrilled to be a customer. They have the reaction I had with Rachel Weisz, which is, you're better looking in person. Your voice is better. You sound better. You look better. It's fun to be in your company. So I highly recommend that if there's anybody in your office who has the inclination to film some of these things, they can be doing you an enormous favor. And the price of entry, that is the cost of a camera, the cost of editing, the uploading it to Instagram and YouTube and TikTok and so forth, is next to zero. I mean, for all intents and purposes, it's anything less than $500 is zero. So I highly recommend that. You do have to have a certain discipline, but once it's baked into your calendar, okay, it's Wednesday, we're shooting content for Thursday. All right, that we're doing it this morning. People don't really have much of a problem coming in about 30 minutes early and knocking something out. And, all you really have to do, courtesy of something like ChatGPT or Perplexity, is you go, what sorts of things are people interested in when looking for a dentist? What are the latest and coolest things that dentistry is now doing that they didn't do 20 years ago? Just do some searches and get a list of about 10 things together, and then start shooting some little 1 minute or 2 minute videos. And they will be bad at first, as Gary Vee will tell you. At first, everybody sucks. You think a stand-up comedian goes out there and kills on the first night? No, it's humiliating. They burn alive on stage. But you gotta have the grit to get your reps in. It's like ice skating. Everybody falls down ice skating. You think you get the idea.
Absolutely. Now, another question for you, and we'll wrap up here pretty quick because I know we're getting to the top of the hour and I want to be conscious of your time. When you think of storytelling, how is storytelling different, or maybe it's not so different, between marketing and sales?
Okay, marketing. No, let me see. Sales is asking for a date. Marketing is why they say yes. Now, storytelling. Let's bracket what I mean by storytelling. Do you remember when Dan Campbell, the coach of the Detroit Lions, got up at his first press conference and he talked about biting people's kneecaps off? I thought that was about the most glorious thing I'd ever seen for 3 reasons. Now, the first was there was something about Dan Campbell's lack of fear to say something like that made me go, oh, this guy, he's going to swing hard. He's going to get the whole ball and it's going to go over that fence because he is without fear. And that was the first thing. The second thing is he said, and this may be the most powerful and potent thing that came out of his mouth, we are going to model this team on the city that it plays for. And I thought, oh, Dan, you are a natural. Because if he delivers on that promise, this is a tough, never say die team that's been knocked down. But when we get up, we're going to take a kneecap off on the way up. And if you knock us down again, we're going to take the other kneecap on the way up. And if you knock us down again, we're going to take another hunk out of you. And we may not win this week, which it's totally come true. If they have the Detroit hangover, when we beat you this week, you're going to lose next week too, because that's how much we thumped you. But what he did was he very much said, there is a kind of player who's going to make it here. There's a kind of player we're going to look for. It's a player with grit that, like the city, won't give up. When they beat Houston very recently, and it was a close thing, they were down by 17 at the half. And it looked like, wow, this is not Jared Goff's best outing. 5 interceptions. They didn't blink. They didn't stop for a second. They said, we are still in this. We're going to drag Houston into the deep water and drown them. And they did. And so what happened was Dan Campbell told a story. He didn't get up there and answer questions like, I'm so excited to be here. That never came out of his mouth. He told a story about a team modeled on a city. And that city, and he described it accurately, we have been beaten and battered and knocked down, and we have gotten up, and we are going to do the same thing. Now, pretend you are a resident of the city of Detroit, Michigan, and you hear that coming out of his mouth, and now you see what's happening. You don't just enjoy what's happening, you feel it because you think, that's right, I own a little piece of this because I'm from Detroit, and that's who we are. And if they go on to win the Super Bowl this year, that party isn't going to stop for 2 weeks. Don't buy a car built in Detroit for 2 weeks after the Super Bowl because nobody's coming to work sober. And Dan Campbell will never pay for another meal as long as he lives in the state of Michigan if they deliver. But it won't just be that they won the Super Bowl. It won't be just that. It will be so much more if they win the Super Bowl. That will be one of the classic all-time turnarounds in the history of any sport. It will be a demonstration of the power of storytelling. When you come here, this is what we expect from you. It was a story about how we behave, what we do, how we don't give up, how the consequences of playing us. You are not going when we come into your building, you are for a world of hurt. And, the fact that, man, they're already talking about, we're halfway through the season and people are going, oh yeah, they're going to be in the Super Bowl. I mean, that goes to show you how dominant they are. It's a Lombardi Packers team. It's Lombardi's Packers. It's old, tiny. We can do it anyway. Okay. All of which is just my way of saying that storytelling is portraying a vision of the future based on something real that you can believe in. And it's particularly, strangely, it's particularly useful for CFOs. A CFO has to make the numbers mean something. A CFO gets to say, here's where the numbers are, but let me explain what that means to us. Because of these numbers, our opportunities are like this. We can do these things. Because of these numbers, we can't do these things. This is the CFO talking. When the CEO gets up and she says this and this and this, and we're going to do this and this, I'm here to tell you 100% we can do those things. These are achievable. And let's talk about the opportunities that others do not have. They do not have our cash bank. They don't have our credit. They don't have this and that. The CFO gets to get up there and say, the picture painted a moment ago, I'm going to add the detail. I'm going to make it photographically. I'm going to bring it into focus. And I'm going to tell you that these are achievable ends. What's more, the next time you hear from me, I'm going to give you a progress report. We're going to see how we're doing. I'm the scoreboard. You're going to look up at the scoreboard. You're going to see where we won this game. You get the idea. When a CFO gets in front of a room and can be that magnetic and that clear and that concise and tell you not what the numbers are, but what the numbers mean, that is a powerful asset for a company.
Absolutely. And Neal, I've really, really enjoyed this conversation. I've learned a lot from you. I've learned a lot from you for the last few years. I've been following you closely on LinkedIn. I subscribed to StoryFire. I've gone through the course. It's really, really well done, very well framed to help understand the components that you need to put together in order to become a great storyteller. And certainly it's something that's worthwhile going through multiple times, because I don't think it's very possible to absorb everything at the outset.
It's a lot.
It is a lot, but it's great. It is really fantastic. Can you tell everybody where they can find you? Like where your socials, all of that?
Yeah. Now, I am easy to find because I spell my name strangely. So it's Neal Foard. And the beauty of that is, Mike, is that I'm the only one in the universe that spells my name my way, which means that if you just look me up, you can find me. I'm on Instagram, TikTok, YouTube.
The downside is you must keep everything curated, and you must make sure that you are representing yourself and your brand properly, because there's no mistaken Neal Foards.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, my daughter will bust me a couple times. Like she'll say things like, "I'll get upset because the recycling is overflowing or something," and I'll get upset, and she'll go, "Dad, that's off brand for you. You need to calm down. You need to be nicer. Stop cursing." So that's the first thing, is that if you can find me on social media just by searching my name, Neal Foard. Okay, the second, and by the way, I also have nealfoard.com, where people can hear the first chapter of my audiobook called Rancho Mad Hammer, which I'm quite proud of. And then the StoryFire.net is the coaching course you mentioned a moment ago, but they have to type in the www. I don't know why that is, but you've got to type in the www.storyfire.net. The name StoryFire comes from people telling stories around the campfire, which is a very old tradition.
Fantastic. Well, thank you so much. Really, really enjoyed the time.
Thank you, Mike, for having me on. I appreciate it.
The Dental Economist Show is brought to you by Planet DDS, home of Dental OS. To find out more about how cloud-based dental software by Planet DDS helps unleash dentists and their staff to focus on patient care, visit www.planetdds.com. Stay tuned for upcoming episodes by following wherever you listen to podcasts. And thank you for listening.